The Barbie movie, it's everywhere now. Advertising, marketing, trailers, and had been hitting home runs. Yet out there in the conversations with the director, the actresses, etc., things are not so peachy keen, and there are some issues here. Now we've got a report out of Bounding into Comics, where it looks like they may be costing themselves big, big money. We'll talk about it with John Trent, author of the article, right now. And folks, welcome back to another video of excellence here on the WDW Pro channel. It is a joy that you have chosen to join us. And folks, if you like content like this, consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe. When you click it, you stick it to the algorithms. It's the notification bell. Hopping in with us today to discuss the Barbie movie, John Trent of boundingintocomics.com, a website that should be bookmarked in your browser. It is truly pushing pop culture and a positive force out there on the web. John, welcome back to the channel.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Absolutely, and what a pleasure it is to be able to go to you when you put out these articles. It's not very many people out there who can say, you know what, we'll just chat with the author today, but here we have it. And you have put out quite the doozy over on Bounding into Comics. The Barbie movie is coming out later this summer. The box office projections for this film have been going up. It came out of nowhere, seemingly. Yet they have appreciated, at least so far, the brand identity. They have not been at war with their own source material. And therefore, everything that is Barbie movie looks like Barbie movie. And everything is lining up then for people who like Barbie to want to go see the movie. And they'll drag their boyfriends with them. And the longer this has went well in terms of trailers, the more it seemed like it won't be such a fight to get the boyfriends there. Now, however, John, you have exposed something that is happening with the people behind this movie, where they seem to be clueless as to the good fortune they have found themselves in. Let's read the article, and I want your take. Before we started this video, I realized that you have quite the bounty of information when it comes to this movie in terms of how things are going wrong that I was unaware of. Here we go. Kate McKinnon reveals Barbie movie is about how gender roles deny people half their humanity. Take that. If you... half your humanity is gone if you disagree with the gender roles of Kate McKinnon. Who knew? Actress Kate McKinnon, who stars in the upcoming Barbie movie, recently explained that the film is about how gender roles deny people half their humanity. McKinnon's comments came amid an interview alongside fellow actresses Margot Robbie, America Ferrera, Isaiah Ray, and Fandango correspondent Naz Perez. Perez began the interview asking Robbie to provide some more details about her comments to BAFTA, where she revealed her first reaction to the Barbie script was, the first time I read the Barbie script, my reaction was, that is so good. What a shame it will never see the light of day, because they are never going to let us make this movie. That's not a good sign. Robbie said, I thought exactly like, this is genius, and they're never going to let us make it. What a shame. This is all going to waste, just because I think it's a little more unexpected. It's not just that the movie is unexpected. I think it's like Greta kind of pushes it. Greta is the director, by the way, folks. Pushes it in directions that I didn't think they would let us go in. And I think a big part of that was acknowledging the things that people find problematic about Barbie, as well as the things that people love about Barbie. All right, John, let's talk about some of this stuff. What is it in your research of this film that you have discovered? Why do you think they felt they could not make it?
So Robbie goes on and says, if you want to go back to the article there, she actually explains a little bit more of it. The fact that she talks about how they make Mattel an actual character. The Mattel CEO is a character, and then there's seemingly a bunch of inappropriate jokes, I guess, as well. But I think a lot of it has to do more with the fact that they are seemingly going to be going against Mattel's entire brand of the Barbie film in order to make this movie. So to me, it seems like it's just attacking Barbie in general, and they're going to try and sell it to people that really don't like Barbie. And it just seems ridiculous to me. And they thought that Mattel would shut them down. Because they are basically going against the brand of the Barbie brand.
We know Mattel was very careful, even so far as not letting Toy Story, the original movie, use Barbie. And then they acquiesced for the second film because of the success of the first. And I guess at the time, realizing that Pixar was really caring about these various brands and toy lines. But John, is this going to subvert then the values of Mattel, if there are any? What's going on here? What's so controversial?
Yeah, so I think when Margot Robbie first started talking about this movie, she said that she was going to be subverting the film. That was one of the first things she talked about while discussing this film. As far as what the subversion is going to be, clearly it's going to be, I think, a very heavy-handed feminist film, pushing probably the most radical feminist messages that are out there, that are percolating through Hollywood. Margot Robbie has kind of been known for that, especially when she's producing through her Lucky Chap production studios. We saw that, I guess, a little bit in the Birds of Prey film. And then I forget what the other film was that she came out with that absolutely bombed at the box office more recently. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head now. So I definitely think we'll see some of that. And then I think we've also got some discussion here from the director in a Vogue interview. It's pretty much the first really big interview piece that they released over here at Vogue. And it was talking, Greta Gerwig says that she found it intriguing that, let me see here, let me get it right here. She said Ken was invented after Barbie to burnish Barbie's position in our eyes and in the world. That kind of creation myth is the opposite of the creation myth in Genesis. So I think there's definitely some kind of Christian subversion that's going to be happening as well.
Well, it's a very strange thing to compare the story of Adam and Eve, a story which has defined the two major religions of the world, and perhaps even the Western world, in terms of identifying that humanity is not in alignment with the divine. Comparing that with the story of how a little toy, a little dolly was created, and then a boy dolly was made after it. I think you have to be off your rocker in order to make that kind of a comparison. Whether whether you're religious, anti-religious, etc., it just doesn't make any sense to make the comparison. But John, you're telling me some things that I did not know about this film before we had the conversation. Everything that I had seen so far was so positive out of the trailers. I was watching these trailers and I was thinking, you know what? Actually, they are nailing the source material. They're staying true to the brand, and this is the way that they need to go forward. Now I'm seeing the press begin to ramp up for this movie, and it's problematic. And here's the thing I can't figure out, John. Why in the world do the marketing teams over there at Hollywood, and if not them, then perhaps the executives who care about money, why do they not go to these influencers, these actresses, these actors, these directors, these writers, and say, we're going to stay away from X, Y, and Z because this doesn't make us money. And when you say these things, we lose money, and we like money. What is it that's driving this where they sabotage their own films prior to release?
Well, I think you've probably talked about it quite often. Obviously, you have the DEI departments that have taken over a lot of these major companies, and these people, I think, are staffed by ideologues. You specifically covered that with the Walt Disney Company and how they've brought in their own kind of foot soldiers to really reshape the company. We have Kathleen Kennedy on record talking about that in an interview presentation with Fortune magazine back in 2015, talking about how she's going to completely reshape how Lucasfilm tells their stories, and then also reshape the entire company to put it more of a feminism focus on it. And then obviously you have the whole Force is Female thing, and it's clearly been brought to light. And she has done that with the products and everything, and I think also with who works there now. So I think you have that, and that is the case. So a lot of these people that are kind of the decision makers, they've employed all these people to make these decisions. So they're putting their trust in them. When you're working with a big company, you do have to kind of delegate some of those responsibilities. As far as why they keep doing it, I definitely think that has to do a lot with the ESG scores, and they are more beholden to kind of the stock price rather than profitability. Although I do think we're seeing a little bit of that shift now, especially with some of these bigger corporations, Disney and Warner Brothers Discovery. They are putting more of a focus, it seems like, on cash flow and profitability rather than their ESG score and their stock price. Although I was just looking at Embracer Group's annual report. If you're unfamiliar with Embracer Group, they're one of the biggest entertainment companies out there. They recently purchased the rights to Middle Earth Enterprises, which contains the Lord of the Rings rights. And the second paragraph, I think, is touting their ESG score and how great it is. So it's still, I think, very important to a lot of the higher ups. And then at the end of the day, I think a lot of the higher ups are also ideological as well. I mean, we've got Bob Iger on record as soon as he was ushered back into the Walt Disney Company, saying he's the one who determines what is right and wrong, and he's paid a lot of money to figure that out. So, I mean, I think that there's also some maybe pride and vanity involved there as well when it comes to a lot of these CEOs that they can do no
Until
wrong.
they send their stuff to China, and then they scrub it clean of everything that they would put out here, and
Right.
yet they still maintain themselves to be highly virtuous. Now, I do want to go back to this article about the Barbie movie. And folks, you need to go read this. We're not going to cover everything in this video. We're skipping ahead significantly. So make sure you go to Bounding Into Comics to read the article. You'll need to click on the link in the description below the video. But here's what we continue with. It says, later in the interview, when the discussion turned toward how they identify a kin, Isaiah Reyes said, I think a kin for me is just kind of there. I think a kin is just a great accessory. That's what I loved about Greta's imagining of Barbie, is that the kins are just supplemental characters to these Barbies, while Barbies can do everything kins are there to kind of support and don't necessarily have their own story. She added, and I think that's not necessarily a negative thing. Well, yeah, it pretty much is. It's incredibly strong for men to be in supportive roles and to support the greatness that is women/Barbie. Now, John, I've said this before, I'll say it again. I am impressed at the low IQ of people who are continuing to have the playground argument of boys are better than girls or girls are better than boys, that most of us are able to toss away at about 6 years of age, and they're still doing this as adults. This has taken over our society, and it is the most mundane sort of nonsense I have ever seen. Every single person is made with the in the image of the divine and has infinite value. That's my position. I'm going to proclaim it loudly because I believe it's important. I believe it's a cornerstone bedrock of civilized society. The better you treat others, the more they'll like you as a general rule. And, well, there must be some truth to that then. So treat other people as if they truly, truly matter, and treat yourself that way as well. But when it comes to this is a subjugation. And I don't see how anybody can think this way without realizing what they're doing, and perhaps she does. Why do we want to create a new idea of subjugating men to women or vice versa? It's stupid both ways. What is going on?
I mean, it's hard for me to think like them at this point because I think so drastically compared to this type of thinking. But for me, it's just it's the Genesis story is pretty clear that Adam needed a partner. None of the animals were doing that, and God created a partner to fulfill him. But also that she's there to help we're complementary, right? Men and women are complementary, and so we both need each other to work together. And just trying to subjugate one or the other is just utterly ridiculous.
Well, you know, from what I understand, the Hebrew word from Genesis that is used for the word woman there refers to an ally in war. It's the same word. And it's amazing to me because, well, no, I'm sorry, John. The word helpmate, I apologize for that. The word helpmate is the word that is the same as the word for an ally in war. And what's amazing to me about that is we face challenges in our lives that are tremendous. We face huge catastrophes in our lives. And folks, if you haven't faced one yet, you will. And I'm sorry to break it to you, but we will have these major problems in our lives. We have great joys as well. And so the idea is, in that story, whatever you may believe, you don't have to believe it. You can believe it. You can think it's allegory. You can think it's literal. Whatever that's up to you out there listening. We're not here to tell you what to believe. But the idea out of it is that men and women need each other because we are helpmates to each other, because we're facing calamity, and we have to be there to lift each other up. It's a completely inverted idea versus what we're getting out of these geniuses behind the Barbie movie, which, by the way, would be doing fantastically if they would just shut up. This is the exact same thing I said about The Little Mermaid. And I really thought that the Barbie movie folks would get it right because they would have seen this, but apparently they're not going to. With Little Mermaid, I said, this is $1 billion film if they can just shut up. And they couldn't. They could not. Right. And it's going to wind up at like 525. It's a 50% cut from its potential.
We'll see Ghostbusters 26 narratives, I think, as well, where if you didn't like the film, you're just a misogynist, anti-woman person.
Right. That's always the excuse when they manage to run off everybody else. Here's what it says. Kate McKinnon then revealed the script is about how, like gender roles. And folks, by the way, if you are giving a talk to anyone and you want to be well respected, you got to throw out those extra like words. is about how like gender roles deny people half their humanity, and how like we need to just like be ourselves. And it's a like very powerful message. 13-year-old girls are more articulate than that. When attempting to explain how she identifies a kin, she said, and so like I spot a kin, everyone's themselves, you know. These are deep, deep thoughts. Barbie arrives in theaters on July 21st, directed by Greta Gerwig. And that's what we've got. So, John, I am still hopeful that they can get it together. I don't know what will be the contents of the Barbie movie. I'm going to hold off until I see it, because a lot of times these Hollywood nitwits, and I hate to, you know, be negative, but this is nitwitty kind of territory. But a lot of times they will virtue signal in what they say, and then you go watch the movie and you go, oh, well, they stripped it out. Sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes you watch the movie and go, no, it's chock full of it. So I'm still going to go with an open mind. I'm going to hope that it's just a fun, funny flick that makes men and women happy. I'm going to hope that it doesn't subjugate any sex, gender, whatever you want to call it. But you have definitely opened my eyes, and I guess we'll wait and see if there are going to be more articles with more of these kinds of comments. Surely, folks, surely we can agree that if you're going to market a movie based on a kid's toy line that has been turned into some bigger, funnier comedy, stay away from religious texts for comparisons. It's just total foolishness when it comes to marketing. John, final thoughts.
I'm probably much more cynical on this film than you are. I thought the trailer was a disaster. You have the whole like Barbie getting assaulted and then arrested for defending herself from the assault, clearly trying to show that like women are getting like smacked on the rear all the time in public, which is just utterly ridiculous. So I definitely think what they're telling you here is what you're going to see in this movie. And I think it's going to be in your face up front, and it's going to be very, very blatant feminist messaging.
Well, here's why I'm trying to hold out hope, John, and you could easily persuade me, and perhaps I already am, but I'm going to hold out hope, at least publicly, and here's why. I feel very sorry for the theater owners who have nothing to do with this. Back in April, we were told by the analysts following the Super Mario Brothers movie that the theater industry, the movie industry was heading in the right direction. We were going to outperform last year significantly. Things were back to normal. And then June came. And June has been a catastrophe. And these, again, this nitwittery is what we're going to call it. This nitwittery out of these people in Hollywood is really damaging real people, And so I hope, for the sake of the theater owners, for the sakes of these small cinemas out there in middle America, I'm hoping for a strong July. I'm hoping for Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning to do quite well. I don't think Indy is going to do well at all. And so we're trying to find those gems, right? I'm talking about Blue Beetle now in August because I'm trying to find something to help the theater owners, because the writer's strike is coming. And I feel sorry for these people who, they have done no wrong. They just want to turn on screens and have people come and darn it, these people who make Hollywood movies, they're determined to not give them any content to draw in audiences. It's cruel. Yeah,
I mean, I not to like call into your sources' integrity, but I don't know what scheduling list they were looking at. I mean, I think we were looking at it back in like February, and we're like, there was nothing really jumping out at me except for Mission Impossible that I would want to go see in theaters. So it doesn't look very good for those theaters. That is unfortunate, but hopefully Mission Impossible does really well. Hopefully it can perform close to what Top Gun Maverick did. Maybe it surpasses it. I'm not sure. I don't think Mission Impossible is on the level of Top Gun Maverick as far as like the brand. I mean, Top Gun was an iconic film in the 80s, obviously a sequel, and it's been like so long. You want to go see what it is. Very similar to how Force Awakens, I guess, had that huge like $2 billion box office because you want to see, you have the curiosity factor. But yeah, hopefully it does really well. I'm really excited about that film. I think it's going to do well. I already got my tickets for it, and it'll be the first film I see in theaters this year.
Yeah, well, I'm hopeful because, again, we don't want to watch theaters disappear. We're heading into a writer's strike situation where content could be very slow next year, and we're going to be back in a spot where we're going to have Wall Street bets on Reddit come in to save the theaters once more. This is dire, I think.
Well, so maybe it's just a little bit of optimism here. Maybe you get some films that haven't been released in a long time out in theaters. I mean, I think we were seeing some really good success with the re-release of The Lord of the Rings. earlier this year. Star Wars did really well. Those per theater ticket grosses were really, really high, even though they didn't have very wide releases. But when you did get them out into the minimum number of theaters that they were in, you were seeing really good returns for those theaters. So that might be something that theaters could maybe lobby to get from these studios with the writer's strike continuing. Maybe get things that maybe people haven't seen before. I mean, I know in the comic book industry that people are hunting for back issues. They're looking for the older stuff. The stuff that sells well is like basically like reprints of the older stuff rather than anything that's coming out new. So maybe the theater industry can figure out a way to get in on that trend.
John, you once again make a fantastic point to end the video. The best film this year in terms of ticket sales per theater, Return of the Jedi. Let that sink in, folks, and maybe we could use some more movies just like that. Well, folks, if you like conversations like this, consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe, and when you click it, you stick it to the algorithms. It's the notification bell. The conversation here is over, but the commentary just begins. Folks, drop a comment down below. We covet your comments. We care about what you think. The Barbie movie, are we being too harsh? Are we not enough? And what do you think about these comments about Adam and Eve and the inverse for a film about little dollies? Tell us down below. And don't forget that the Pro Show is Thursdays, 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Join us live and hear what we have to say with a panel of expert guests. Folks, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.
Make sure to catch the Pro Show Thursdays 5 to 7 Eastern Time. Entertainment explained, the culture curve conquered, live with Pro and all his friends.